2 years ago, the state passed a law requiring a 15-day waiting period before anyone could buy a gun. The intent, more time to screen out criminals and those with mental histories. Now, a new proposal that goes well beyond that. A ban on military assault weapons. New restrictions, including one that says you must be 21 just to carry a handgun. And new requirements to get a concealed weapons permit, some of which were dropped in the compromise gun bill of 2 years ago. The result of dropping those concealed weapons requirements, 15,000 of them have been issued in just Multnomah County alone.
There are thousands of people who are now armed carrying concealed weapons, including into public buildings and schools, who may have no need whatsoever to carry a concealed weapon.
Dick Springer is sponsoring the bill and admits he faces tough sledding because of the potent opposition of the gun lobby. Lawmakers watched closely last year when a Multnomah County Commissioner, Rick Bauman, survived a recall attempt when he sponsored a local gun law. The pro-gun groups have not examined this bill yet, but one lobbyist said it's unnecessary. So-called assault weapons are not used in crimes. And there have been no demonstrable problem from the concealed weapons permits. But Springer says victims of gun use will be deployed to help him pass his bill.
I hope that those that I'm working with, people whose lives and families have been affected adversely by gun violence, will be able to convince my colleagues to show the kind of courage, I think, to stand up to a very vocal minority and say, we're going to come down on safety and prudence and protection of our law enforcement officers and protection of society.
You're ramming something into the people. You're violating the people's rights. I'm tired of it.
There was no doubt about it. Pro-gun activists were angry, and they let Portland City Commissioners know it.
Gretchen, if you can show me just one single instance of a Browning BAR hunting rifle or any other lawfully owned firearm on this inane list, I will kiss your Pioneer Courthouse Square.
Like Multnomah County, the city's gun ordinance would prohibit the possession of an assault weapon in a public place. It would also require the owners of such weapons to unload and disassemble them for transport. Most of those testifying before the council opposed the ordinance, saying it would not deter crime.
Criminals aren't going to keep their firearms unloaded, broken down, and locked in a carrying case or in their trunk.
Several political leaders supported the gun ordinance, as did Portland Police Chief Tom Potter. However, Potter admitted none of the murders committed in the city last year involved assault weapons. The sponsor of the ordinance, Gretchen Kafori, says the measure is designed to prevent crime.
I venture if this council 5 years ago had been discussing the fact that one of us who supported gun control said that our children would be driving around Northeast Portland shooting each other, everyone would have yelled and hooted at us and said we were being hysterical and irrational.
Pro-gun activists have appealed a decision upholding Multnomah County's gun ordinance. The Portland ordinance won't become official until the city council votes on a second reading next week. But firearms associations are already promising they'll take the city to court as well. At City Hall, Phyllis Burke, Channel 2 News.
Seth Weil and his father, Steve, have been shooting handguns for less than a year. They bought the guns for recreational target practice.
I personally never considered taking the gun out in safety defense. That's what police are for. I just use my gun to shoot here.
These guns are locked up in a safe at home. They do not come out until such time as we come here to use them.
The Wiles are among a growing number of Multnomah County residents buying handguns, up from about 750 in 1990 to more than 1,000 last year. More than 900 new gun owners came to this Portland shooting alley last year for handgun training. More than 1/3 of the clients here are women. The owners say most people are buying handguns because of relaxed requirements for concealed weapons permits, concern for their personal safety, and for recreation. If the firearm is for self-defense, they have a critical piece of advice.
You have to be aware of what you're doing, you have to be committed with what you're doing, and responsible for what you're doing. And if you're not, you shouldn't own the gun.
Rusty Walton signed up to shoot for the first time, intending to keep a handgun for personal protection.
The neighborhood that I'm in, we have had some petty crime, and I would hope I would never ever have to, it would come to that, but it would be nice to be comfortable and familiar with whatever I have available.
As friends share their experience with friends, the owners of the shooting alley say they won't be surprised to see gun sales continue climbing even faster in 1992. In Northeast Portland, Bob High, Channel 2 News.
Gun dealers say when the crime rate goes up, sales of handguns and combat-type shotguns climb just as steadily.
The only recourse people have now, since the cops are always 20 minutes too late, is to take care of it themselves. No question about it.
There are questions, though, about when armed citizens can use their guns to protect themselves. Oregon law says a person is not justified in using deadly physical force unless the person believes the other person is committing or attempting to commit a felony, a burglary, or is about to use deadly physical force. The law does not allow people to chase burglars and shoot them, nor does it allow them to set spring-line traps that fire when someone comes through a door or window. But the law is gray in the instances of shooting at intruders in a backyard, say, or burglars fleeing the scene. That's why in nearly all Multnomah County cases involving citizens shooting burglars, the cases are sent to a grand jury.
You've got to remember, you're going to be judged by 20/20 hindsight, probably a week or certainly after the event. You're going to be judged by 7 of your peers, 7 citizens. It'll be reviewed by trained police officers and trained district attorneys that are going to look and see if, in fact, the facts support a criminal charge.
2 years ago, a man police say was waiting for a burglar in his garage, shot and killed him. The case went to a grand jury, the ruling justifiable homicide. But a civil court seeking monetary damages against the man has been filed by the estate of the man he shot. The threat of legal action and the emotional trauma that follows the use of deadly force is why law enforcement officials hand out this advice.
Don't use deadly physical force. Call 911. Get a uniformed man or woman out there. You know, we pay good money and we train the men and women of the police bureaus and the sheriff's office to do that. Only use it when it's life-threatening.